Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley and welcome to Satur-YAY. We are celebrating the weekend by getting our craft on. And this weekend, we're going to be creating a framed winter wonderland scene. Now, I like to use the frames because it helps me to kind of contain my scene and create a more clean and simple looking card instead of having the scene expand all the way across the card front. Here's a look at the products I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using this Darcy's Snow Much Fun or Snow Much Joy stamp set. It is so adorable. I love the Darcy's critters. And the cool thing about the backer sheet is it actually comes with coloring on the critters to kind of give you an idea of how you can color them. For my frame, I'm going to be using the Say Cheese Again die set from Lawn Fawn. This creates a fun instant photo frame for your card, and there are two sizes included. So there's the larger one and the smaller one, and this adorable little stitched heart as well. Now, when I started my card, I didn't know which one of these I was going to be using. This is the Essentials by Ellen Mountain Holiday stamp set on the left and the Over the River stamp set on the right. I end up using the Mountain Holiday, but both of them are great for creating elements within a winter wonderland scene. So I'm starting out with these two little critters. They are in my Mini Misty, and I'm stamping them in some Copic friendly ink, and I'm stamping them onto some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. Now, I normally use 110-pound cardstock for almost everything, but these stamps do not have coordinating dies, so I knew I would be fussy cutting them. And I find that when I'm fussy cutting images, a lighter weight cardstock gives me better results because I'm not working as hard to go through the paper and I can get cleaner, smoother lines. Now, I'm going to keep this little backer sheet or the stamp set here off to my right-hand side so I can kind of use it as inspiration for where I want my shading and that sort of thing. And I'm going to start coloring my fox. Now, I'm doing some pretty basic Copic coloring here, and I've left a little bit of it in, but I'm not going to leave all of the coloring in because we don't have all day. You got to get to creating after you watch this video. So I'm just going to leave this part in. For the fox, I used YR12, YR16, YR27, and E33 to begin with. And then I kind of decided that I didn't really care for the E33 in there. So I put a little bit in there, but I didn't put any more of it when I went back to do my shading. So I started with a base coat of the YR12, and then I went in with the YR27 around the edges, and I blended that out with the YR16. Now, before I go back to my lightest color, I decided I wanted a little more shading. So I jumped back to my YR27, again, added more shading, went back to my YR16, and then finished it off with the YR12. Now, you'll notice I'm not working to stay inside the lines around the outside of this image. That's because I'm going to be fussy cutting it, and I can color outside the lines all I want, and it's not going to make a difference once I get these fussy cut. Now, on things like the scarf and things like that, you kind of want to be careful that you're not coloring outside of the lines, but you can, on the outer areas of this image, go outside the lines and it's not going to make any difference. And that, my friends, is so freeing. Color outside the lines every once in a while. It makes for a much more pleasant coloring process. So I'm just going to finish up my fox, and I will have all of the Copic colors that I use listed over at the coordinating blog post, so be sure to check that out. And now I'm going to take my scissors and start fussy cutting my images. Now you're going to notice that I am actually moving the paper, not the scissors, when I fussy cut these images. I find that you get a much smoother, cleaner cut when you use this method. And just kind of slow yourself down and take your time. And in the end, you're going to end up with great results. I'm going to show you how to make it look like you did a perfect cut line around the entire image here in just a second. But I did want to show you that I'm just moving that paper and kind of keeping the scissors still. Now, between the 80-pound cardstock and this whole technique of fussy cutting where you keep your scissors still and move the paper, and this trick I'm going to show you here in just a second, I look like I'm a master fussy cutter. I am not a master fussy cutter. I don't even know if that title exists, but I can sure fake it. I decided I did not like the scarf on the fox that I colored originally. So I am fussy cutting around this extra scarf that I colored as well. And I'm just going to glue that on top of my image there and change the color of the scarf. I thought he looked too Christmassy and I wanted to keep it a little more on the winter theme for the fox card. Now here's that other trick I told you I was going to show you. I have a brush tip marker here. This is a Zig Art and Graphic Twin brush tip marker, or it's actually twin tip marker, but I'm using the brush tip and I'm going around the edge of this fussy cut image and coloring the edge black. I'm coming in from the back side of the image and just kind of going around the entire edge of the image. That really cleans up those fussy cut lines and makes you look like you are the master fussy cutter. So try that the next time you have to do a little fussy cutting. Now I took some Zig Satur-YAY glue pen and I adhered my scarf onto the top of the fox. And then I decided I didn't like the sled color with the scarf color. So I colored another sled as well. I'm doing some quick shading with the BG11 and the BG13. And then I am going to fussy cut that image, just that sled portion, and I am going to adhere it on top of the fox once again, right after I do the little black marker tip around the edge as well. Now this is kind of a version of paper piecing that I'm doing here. I'm using it to correct some errors in my coloring or some colors that I didn't like, but keep in mind you could also stamp these images and cut portions from pattern paper and adhere them over the top of your colored image as well and get a completely different look for that scarf or that sled. So you don't have to just use the colored image. You could also stamp this on pattern paper. And I'm going to be using some pattern paper in these card projects. There's a couple of pattern paper pads that I am loving for this holiday season. So now that I have my images colored and ready to go, I'm going to start working on my card front. And I have some Neenah 110-pound heavyweight cardstock. And I laid my Say Cheese, the larger frame, onto this card front and traced the window. And then I'm going to mask off that area, leaving the inner area of that window exposed. So I'm masking off around that window area. And I'm going to do a little ink blending within where this window will be from that Polaroid frame. So I am using some Distress Oxide ink in Spun Sugar, Worn Lipstick, and a touch, just a teeny tiny touch of the Candied Apple right at the top. And on the other card for the penguin, I actually reversed this and I did the darker at the bottom and the lighter at the top. So you can kind of reverse the order if you want your darker area to be at the bottom. But you can see I just quickly blended that onto that Neenah heavyweight cardstock and it worked out perfectly. Now I am taking the mountain image. This is from the Mountain Holiday stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line. I'm taking the outline and I am stamping that onto some scrap Neenah Solar White cardstock. And then I'm going to take the inner piece and I am stamping that in some Arctic ink from Altenew. And then I'll just use the coordinating dies and run that through my die cut machine. Now I am using my Big Shot today. I usually use my Gemini Junior, but my craft room is currently under construction. I decided to rip out a wall, and that kind of hinders my ability to create like I normally create. So I am using the Big Shot today because it was within reach, didn't require electricity, and my craft room was a mess. So in full disclosure, they both work, so you could use whatever die cut machine you have, but that's if you notice that and you have a question about why I'm using that one today versus the other one, that's why. So now I am going to start assembling, and what I'm doing here is I've stamped and die cut some trees from that Mountain Holiday stamp set as well, and I am actually adhering them to a white frame here. I'm going to use several of these white frames and stack them up to create some dimension. Now you could also use foam adhesive on the back of these, but I think the stacked up die cuts just give you such a really nice, cool, solid look on the front of your card. It's a really clean look from the side as well, but either foam adhesive or stacked up die cuts would work for this. I actually adhered the mountains and the trees on one die cut, and then I put one on the front of that and then one on the back, and then I stacked two more in front of that. So there's a total of 5 die cut frames here all stacked up, and then I'll put the pattern paper die cut on the top of that. Now I wanted to use this Dashing Through the Snow sentiment, and I wanted it to be on a curved banner, but I did not have a curved banner die. So I am taking a stitched hillside border from Lawn Fawn, and I am die cutting it from some vellum. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it down, and then I'm going to line it up with that previous cut line and hold it in place with some Post-it tape, and I'm going to run it back through my die cut machine again. This is going to leave me with kind of a wavy banner piece that I can stamp my sentiment on top of. Now, the drawback to this is you will only have stitching lines on either the top or the bottom, depending on how you do this, but I think it's a great way to create your own kind of wavy banner. I'm going to take my sentiment and mount it on my block, and I did adjust the sentiment just a little bit to make it fit better on the waves that I've created. Then I'm going to prep the surface of my vellum with my powder tool. I'm going to ink up my stamp with some Versamark ink and stamp it onto that wavy banner piece that I've created. And then I added some white embossing powder and heat set that. Then I'll take my scissors and I'll trim the end into a banner shape, and that gives me the perfect little wavy banner for the front of my card. I'm going to just take some tape runner and I'm going to adhere it to the back of my cute little fox here, and then I'll add some foam tape onto the back of my fox as well. Once I have that foam tape on the back of this entire piece here, I'm going to remove the backer and adhere it to this pattern paper frame that I created. Now the pattern paper for this card here is the Candyland 6x6 pattern paper pad from My Favorite Things. I love this pattern paper pad because there are so many fun holiday type patterns, but there's also just some really colorful patterns that you can use year round. For the penguin card, I used the Lawn Fawn Really Rainbow Christmas 6x6 paper pad. That has a lot of really colorful Christmas patterns as well, and both of them I am loving for cards this holiday season. Now, before I adhered this entire stacked up frame kind of element to my card front, I went ahead and used a couple of the stitching line dies from the Essentials by Ellen line and added some stitching lines along the left side of my card front. Then I mounted that entire card front using some foam adhesive to a mint colored card base, and I finished off my card with some glossy accents over the eyes and the nose, a few little sparkling clear sequins, and some shimmer pin on top of the mountains. Now you can see through the magic of television, I have also finished up my little penguin card, and now I'm adding some liquid applique to the underneath of both of these focal images on my cards. I love this liquid applique for little snowy accents. It's so much fun, and you could sprinkle a little glitter in it as well. And you want to let that dry before you come in with your heat tool and heat set it. And you can see I'm adding heat and taking it away. Now I couldn't show you the heat on the actual cards that I created today because of the construction that was going on in my craft room, but I heat set the liquid applique after I allowed it to dry for several hours, and that creates that puffy snow effect on both of these cards, which I think is so much fun and really adds to that winter wonderland theme that I have going on here. So that completes my cards for today. A couple of framed up scenes, winter wonderland themed, with those cute little critters as the focal point and some snowy effects as well. I think these turned out so adorable, and I love these Darcy's stamps. I love the way that they paired up with those mountains in the background, and I think these are absolutely adorable for the winter or holiday season coming up. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube, but head on over to the coordinating blog post over at ellenhudson.com. I'll have that linked below. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, and a list of the Copic colors that I use to color all of these images. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our card making and paper crafting video tutorials. Thanks for watching and spending time with me today. Happy Satur-YAY, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go ahead and click that button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.